Okay, now on to the actual body of the foot. So this is the back leg, his right leg, and we've just finished the toes on his left leg. Okay, so these are kind of the result of what came out of the posable symmetry. So pretty good, it just requires a little work. Now this is the general block that I've already established on the foot, and it passes to a first approximation, but it needs some refinement. And so that's what we're going to go through now. Really, what you'll see, I'm working my way down from the calves as I refine down the leg. And so we'll get down to the foot really quickly. On both sides, the ankle bones, the malleoli, need to be trimmed down, and also, as I'll discover, just kind of cross-referencing, they need to be lowered quite a bit. So this is way too high. I just kind of, it was a rough block as I put this in, and I just kind of missed a little bit, because this actually probably needs to come down to about this level as it clamps onto the top of the foot. So some of these things are going to change and get pushed around a little bit. Before I get there, the major characteristic that I'm seeing coming across, and something I like to check always, is the flow of the tendon of the tibialis anterior, right? Because we know it sits on the outside of the lateral surface of the tibia, and then it crosses over right about here, in fact, crosses over kind of the tibia and ends up inserting into the medial side of the foot, right? So actually down and under, kind of into the base of the first metatarsal. And so this, when you get this tendon lined up and flowing correctly, that means that you have the medial surface of your foot in the right place. It means that the lateral surface of your tibia is in the right place, and it also means that if you get it to do the little characteristic bump as it crosses the shin, right, because it's lashed down with all these extensor retinaculum, all these different pieces of almost like Scotch tape, and it just pops out right about here. And if you get that pop right, then that means all your major planes and surfaces are aligned correctly. If you're really trying to force this, then that means something is aligned incorrectly, right? So that's a really good way to just check the flow of your foot and your construction for the lower leg. Okay, so now I just want to really get some refinement into the arch of the foot, right? So all the way up with the first metatarsal, and then down, and then on the outside, this is going to plane off at the fifth metatarsal associated with the pinky toe, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to achieve, is kind of this vaulting that starts to descend, and then it kind of just finishes off on the outside. So I'm just going and carving some planes back into that. Here is me starting to move the medial malleolus down. And also trimming some of the width off of him, because he's kind of a clamp that comes down like this. Remember, he's the bone that comes up and across like this, and has a little pocket out here for the distal end of the fibula to just sit into, and they're bound together by ligament, right? But this is one continuous bone creating this arc across here. Okay, associated with the medial malleolus is the depression behind it, which is pretty much where we have just skin in here, because we have the Achilles tendon passing up behind it, right? So we have to get this to be the right depth, and we have to get the Achilles tendon to be the right width as well. So these are all things that you'll see coming up as I work through refining this. Okay, this guy really clamps on, right? So we have it clamping onto a bone, a tarsal called the talus, and talus is sitting on top of something called the calcaneus. And together those two are passing us back this big blocky structure on the foot, on the heel. And then we have embedded over the bone a big, big fibrous fat pad just sitting back like this. Right, so we're just trying to observe from the reference some of the construction that we know taking place with skeleton and fat. Okay, this is me starting to carve into the Achilles tendon to get it to be the right width, and it's about the size of a thick permanent marker, you know, and so this is not quite the right profile yet. This is wider than it is deep, so this really needs to go quite round. Okay, on just in front of the medial malleolus, you have something called the navicular tuberosity, which is just poking out right about here, and it's kind of the first tarsal in front of the the talus, which the lower leg bones clamp onto. All right, so and it just pokes out here and creates a little bump. And then passing in front of that is the tendon of the tibialis anterior. Just looking around, seeing what things look like, changing some lights. Okay, and in here, this everybody knows is obviously the abductor of the big toe. Right, so this kind of attaches in here and yanks it back to help spread your toes, like you're going to plant your foot on landing from a jump or something. You know, it kind of spreads your toes apart. In the same way, when we get to the lateral surface of the foot in the fifth metatarsal, we'll see the abductor of the little toe. Okay, and this really just sits right in here, spanning all the way along the bottom surface of the this first metatarsal, and then back to the calcaneus back here. Okay, so all the way back to there, and then as we move forward, I'm just kind of blocking that in, making sure I get enough volume to the kind of the joint of the first toe. Go in and actually going to bulk it out with a standard brush. You see, I've been working at level 6, and I actually have some artifacts on level 7 from previous kind of sculpting, different kind of strokes, and so I'm just going to use a little bit of the smooth brush to take those down and try not to get rid of any form, but sacrifice a little bit of sharpness when you use the smooth brush. So I'll talk about that kind of stuff in the refining video. Just seeing some individual characteristics from the reference on top of kind of the general construction that I'm putting in. Okay, again, trimming down the Achilles tendon. We're trying to get it to be that nice, tidy little tube that it's meant to be. Okay, really trimming down and making less general the distal end of the fibula, right, the lateral malleolus. And then just kind of unifying this top arc of the foot, where there actually is a big retinaculum, a big kind of retaining band for the tendons lashing across there, and it's kind of creating a really nice plane change along this first angle from shin down to this angle to the foot, and you can see it quite clearly in some of the reference images. Okay, little mass on the outside, just in front of the lateral malleolus is extensor digitorum brevis, and he's just hanging out there in the little pocket in front there. And just have to make sure, again, like the rest of the muscles coming off the leg, that you have a way for the extensor digitorum tendons to get to the toes, right? Toes 2 through 4 or 2 through 5. And if he can't make his way naturally, then you probably have some constructional problems. So when I'm talking about make his way naturally, I'm talking about planes coming through here that make sense. Okay, now I'll have to start to refine some of the outside. So the abductor of the pinky toe comes all the way back, grabs on for a little bit at the head of the fifth metatarsal right here, and then it actually spans back as well. So it kind of has two sections, the front half being the wider of the two. And so you'll see me do a little bit of that here. This would be the head of the fifth metatarsal, resting right on the ground. That's kind of the terminating point of the vault of the foot, right? That's the weight-bearing side of it. Okay, just running through this because most of this construction, I think, is apparent. Just kind of refining planes. And here I'm just actually doing a big move to get the angle of this pull, right? It's kind of taking a little wobble out to the side, so I'm just going to pull it in a little bit. Still working on that vexing Achilles tendon, just to get it just right. And again, when you have a good set of reference in front of you, you'll see exactly how it should be, and you'll need to get it there. Okay, so that kind of takes me to the end. I've just wrapped around. That hopefully gives you a good idea of what goes into setting up the planes of the foot. Right, so I expect that you guys, when you're doing this, will want to look at some of obviously the anatomy of it and the bony structure, but also you'll want to kind of just look at the soft forms and consider the fatty areas, and really those are the two things. Bone and fat make up the feet, and the muscles are negligible, at least on the top surface, with the exception of the two abductors. Okay, combine that with the toes, and hopefully you guys will have passable feet for your models. And passable feet is what we ask. Any more than that is icing on the cake. Okay, thanks.